Hello, everyone, and welcome to the OSCE Webinar Outreach Program. And this is the first presentation that we are going to have for potential applicants like you and individuals interested in the OSCE. We are going to start this month of July with a series of webinars focused on talent acquisition topics for people over the 57 participating states and 11 partners for cooperation who may be interested in the OSCE, its activities, recruitment, and talent acquisition activities as well. We're also going to cover topics like preparing for interviews, preparing a job application, preparing for pre-recorded screening interviews, and other topics of interest for all of you. Before we move to the presentation itself, I just want to do one very last check. If you can hear me okay, please enter yes on the chat box at the bottom of the screen so that we can learn that you are having no issues with the audio. So again, I see a lot of yeses coming in. We are very glad that we are talking to you today. We've had over 600 registrations from individuals across the globe. So we are very happy that you have decided to join us today. And again, apologies for starting slightly later. We were trying to solve some technical issues. Today, our topic will be monitoring officer opportunities at the OSCE. And we are adding the subtitle, Make a Difference, because we believe opportunities like these will add great value to your career journey while helping you make a difference in the world. Speaking of people who make a difference, we have a few individuals who are joining us today to tell us their stories and how becoming a monitoring officer positively impacted their professional lives. Before we get started, here are some instructions. Just use your computer or mobile device to listen to the presentation. You will be able to ask questions at the end of the presentation via the chat box featured on the bottom right of your screen. And to find this chat box feature, go to the top of your screen and look at the icon for chat or Q&A. All microphones will be muted throughout the presentation with the exception of the speakers. And the speakers are going to introduce themselves very, very soon. So now we're going to get started, if that's okay with you. Since I'm speaking, I'm just going to start with myself. My name is Gustavo Araújo, and I am the Chief of Recruitment here at the OSCE, and I started the job about 2.5 months ago.
So hello to everybody, I'm Marta Fernandez Mazarambro. I'm Recruitment Officer, and I work with the OSCE since 2013.
Thank you, Marta. I'm very glad to have Marta with me today because Marta is quite experienced in recruitment at the OSCE and oversees the portfolios of all of our recruiters across the regions so that we can bring the best talent to this organization. Now let's move on. Our colleague Marinka has not been able to join us yet and will be working in the background to get us in. But for now, let's get Gail Fisher. Unmute her microphone and introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Gail and looking forward to speaking to you all today.
Thank you, Gail. Moving on, we're going to go to the next speakers. The next one is Ludivine.
My name is Ludivine Estienne. I'm from France and I'm a monitoring officer and I'm currently based in NIPRO monitoring team. Nice to talk to you all today.
Thank you very much. And the next speaker, Saner.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. My name is Saner Akhmedov. I joined this special monitoring mission in 2014 April, and I'm currently based in Ivano-Frankivsk as Deputy Team Leader. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, all of you guys who dedicated plenty of time to prepare for this webinar. Just moving on to the next. This is what we are covering today. We're going to go very, very quickly over the overview of the OSCE activities, very briefly, because the most important piece of information today is what you're going to be hearing from the monitoring officers. We're going to give you a brief overview of the special monitoring mission to Ukraine, and then our speakers will discuss to you what a monitoring officer does on a day-to-day basis, who gets hired for the job, what skills are needed, what are the misconceptions about the position, and the value of adding the OSCE to your career journey. And to finalize, we're going to have Marta actually elaborate on the application, nomination, and selection process, and we're going to end up with a question and answer piece. Okay? So, just as a last test of the system, for those of you who just joined us, please let us know by saying, yes, I can hear you, or yes, in the chat box, so that we can proceed with the webinar. All right, everyone, we are going to move on right now, and we're going to start with what is the OSCE. Marta, could you tell us more about it?
Sure. So for those of you who do not know what the OSCE is, or you're not so familiar with what we do, there's plenty of information in YouTube if you want to afterwards look for it and have watch a video. There's plenty of information there, articles and photo essays in the internet as well. In a nutshell, what I can tell you is it's an international organization and it has a comprehensive approach to security that encompasses 3 dimensions: political, military, economic and environmental, and human dimension, the human aspects. So it therefore addresses a wide range of security-related concerns, which of course includes armed control, competent security building measures, but also human rights and national minorities, democratization, policing strategies, counterterrorism, and economic and environmental activities. It's composed by our 57 participating states who enjoy equal status, and decisions are taken by consensus on a politically, however, not legally binding basis. So in a nutshell, again, the work of the OSCE spans the globe, encompassing 3 continents, North America, Europe, and Asia, and secures more than 1 billion people.
Very good. Thank you for that, Marta. Just moving on to the next presentation, Marta mentioned the 3 dimensions that we deal with in the OSCE activities, and they are the political military that aims to create greater openness, transparency, and cooperation across the OSCE region. We also have the economic and environment dimension to support good governance and environmental awareness, and the human dimension, whose objectives to strengthen democratic institutions, promote gender equality, human rights, and media. In other words, we have a lot of different types of tasks and activities in lots of different types of profiles that people like you may potentially qualify to submit an application. Moving on to the next slide, which talks about the areas we focus on. Could you tell us more about it, Marta?
Sure. So as you can see that we have the 3 dimensions which have a lot to do one with the other. So if you look at this tree, you will see many fields of expertise. The activities of this organization cover all these areas, from hard security issues, conflict prevention, to fostering economic development, also ensuring the sustainable use of natural resources, promoting the full respect of human rights, fundamental freedoms. So if you have a look at this tree and you see all these different areas, have a bit of a look and see if you recognize your profile in one of them.
Exactly. And who are we? Who we are is pretty much, we are composed of 57 participating states. And Marta, what can you tell us about these participating states?
Well, as I mentioned before, there are 57 participating states from North America, so Canada, the United States, and then Europe and Asia. So it's the world's largest regional security organization. And we work to ensure peace, as we mentioned before, democracy, stability for millions of people. We are regional partners to the United Nations. So this is not United Nations, but we are intimately related to United Nations. In order to qualify to apply for a monitoring officer position, you must be a citizen of one of the 57 participating states.
The only caveat to applications is that if you're applying for missions, you cannot be a citizen of the host country in order to actually apply for a position there. So including the Partners for Cooperation, which qualify for certain types of positions and applications. And for more information, you can actually look at jobs.osce.org. Just moving on, as Marta mentioned, the OSCE is a partner to the United Nations, and this cooperation was initiated in 1992 when the participating states declared the OSCE to be a regional arrangement in the sense of Chapter 8 of the Charter of the United Nations. The OSCE recognizes that the UN Security Council bears primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security. Thus, the United Nations is OSCE's primary partner organization, but the OSCE also liaises with multiple agencies across its OSCE area, including NATO as well.
So where are we present today? We're not only in Vienna, the headquarters, but there are three institutions, one of them in Warsaw, another one in The Hague, and another one in Vienna. And then, of course, our 16 field operations. That's where the field work is done. So the field operations have very different mandates, but they definitely, all of them, work on helping a host country fulfilling the OSCE commitments, and focusing on a different area of work, so early warning, conflict prevention, crisis management, post-conflict rehabilitation. It also facilitates reform and political process, law enforcement, and fostering local capabilities, and also keeping the OSCE commitment informed about the decisions. So we have field officers in Southeastern Europe, in Eastern Europe, and Central Asia.
What kind of jobs do we have? This is a question that a lot of you may have. So if you look at for example, the first dimension, we can have opportunities for individuals to join us as a policy support officer or even monitoring officer. In the second dimension, we may have economic and environmental officer. In the third dimension, human rights officer, advisor on anti-trafficking issues, democratization officer, media monitor. However, we do have options for administrative type of work. Myself, I work in human resources. We do have people who work in procurement, we have people who work in finance. So just like any other multilateral international organization, it takes a lot more than the clear areas of the mandate of the organization to keep the organization running. So I truly encourage you to check jobs.osce.org to find out if we currently have vacancies available for your profile, including legal officer and auditors, for example. The next question we have is, what is the SMN, Marta? Could you give us a brief explanation?
Yeah, and I'm very proud to say that since I started in 2013, I was one of the ones in human resources who saw this mission come to life and be born, and actually helped in actually making it happen. So it was an amazing experience, very exciting experience. So the special monitoring mission in Ukraine was deployed to 21st of March 2014. Following a request to the OSCE by Ukraine's government and a consensus decision by all 57 OSCE participating states. So basically it's an unarmed civilian mission, present to the ground 24 hours, 7 days a week in all regions of Ukraine. And what are the main tasks? Well, to observe and report in an impartial and objective way on the situation in Ukraine, and to facilitate dialogue among all parties to the crisis.
Thank you very much, Marta. And it seems like one of our speakers has just joined us, Marinka. If you can hear us, your microphone is unmuted. Could you please say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, Gustavo. Here I am. Can you hear me well?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. So, hello everyone. My name is Marinka Franulovic. I'm monitoring officer and I come from Croatia. I'm currently posted in Odessa in Ukraine. Glad to be with you today.
Thank you for joining, Marinka. I know we've experienced a few technical problems. So for the speakers right now, the panelists, when you're not talking, please mute your microphone, and we're going to be getting back to you very, very soon. Again, thank you for joining.
Sure.
Okay, so moving on to the OSCE in action. If you want to find out more about the OSCE mission, I know we're not giving you a lot of information today. We're going to be giving you more information about the SMM via the role of the monitoring officers. You can look for our videos on YouTube. One of the videos we have available is Facts Matter. You just go to YouTube and you type in Facts Matter, OSCE, SMM, which stands for Special Monitoring Mission to the Ukraine. And speaking of SMM and speaking about monitoring officers, now it's time to meet our speakers who are either current monitoring officers or have been in the past. Okay? And as a great surprise, we can get started with Marinka. Marinka, could you tell us a little more about yourself?
Sure, Gustavo. As I said, great to be with you today. I'm a monitoring officer from Croatia. Well, the very country that won the silver in the World Cup.
Congratulations.
And thank you. I've been with SMM since March 2015. I worked in Donetsk for 2.5 years, and I was redeployed to Odessa. My background is civilian. I finished law in University of Zagreb. And during the last 20 years, I worked internationally in many different countries, in the Philippines and in Central Asia. And I was focused in the areas related to law, diplomacy, and human rights. My job prior joining the SMM was in Croatian Embassy in Moscow during the opening of the embassy's consular department. And I also had opportunity to cover culture there in my embassy and studied at the time documentary filmmaking. Yeah, that's about that.
Thank you very much, Marinka. Now let's move on to the next speaker. And the last speaker is Ludivine. Could you please tell us more about yourself?
Yes, sure. So hello again. So as I mentioned earlier, my name is Ludivine, and I'm from France. And sorry, Marinka, we are the world champions. So I joined the mission in December 2015, and I worked for almost 2 years in Donetsk, mainly in the human dimension unit. I was redeployed to Dnipro monitoring team in September last year as gender focal point. And prior to joining the SMM, I mainly worked in the fields of human rights and election observation for the UN, for the EU, for the OSCE, and other NGOs as well, mainly in Latin America and the Caribbean, Africa, and Southeast Asia. Thank you.
Thank you for joining, Ludivine. And we're going to be learning more about Marinka, Ludivine, and all of the speakers today and what they do on a daily basis very, very soon. Now let's move on to the next speaker. Gail, can you tell us more about yourself?
Hello everyone. Yes, my name's Gail and I'm from the United Kingdom. My university degree was in law, and then following that I spent a number of years working in the British military and did a whole variety of things such as engineering, conflict analysis, some human resources work. And I joined the SMM in 2016, and I've been working in the east of Ukraine as a monitoring officer, also with some of our technical monitoring assets, and then also as a manager. So yeah, looking forward to speaking to you.
Thank you, Gail. And now, last but not least, Sander, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello everyone, once again. My name is Sander Akhmedov. I'm from Republic of Macedonia. I joined the Special Monitoring Mission to Ukraine in 2014 in April in Donetsk. I was stationed since there in Donetsk, so we worked on conflict resolution, crisis management issues in Donetsk. Before that, I was working in the Secretariat, in the OSCE as well, and other missions such as Tajikistan, the mission in Tajikistan, the OSCE mission in Tajikistan, where we mostly covered the counterterrorism issues and radicalization and extremism that leads to terrorism. I'm currently based in Ivano-Frankivsk in western Ukraine in the capacity of deputy team leader. And I'm looking forward to receiving your questions for further details. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Senator. So as you see, two of our speakers are current monitoring officers, and two of the other speakers have moved on from being monitoring officers to other positions. So we do have some perspective on what it takes to be a monitoring officer, the kinds of backgrounds that you may expect to have, and what kind of options you may have moving on from this position, which is very important to know as well. Now, a question that everybody may ask themselves when considering these types of opportunities is, what does a monitoring officer do? So, Marinka and Ludovine, since you are current monitoring officers, can you walk us a little bit about the activities that you engage in?
Sure, Gustavo. In the conflict-affected Ukraine, SMM Monitor collects facts on the ground and reports on them. This, of course, involves a wide range of different tasking that highly depend on concrete situations and the mission's priorities. We monitor ceasefire violations, however, we also communicate with civilians affected by the conflict. Personally, as a monitor with civilian background and a Russian speaker, hopefully also a Ukrainian speaker soon, I've been mostly involved in humanitarian, in human dimension and gender-related tasking. My team maintains regular contact with the IDPs, which are internally displaced persons, and we daily interacted with civilians with different backgrounds, sex and age, who all face different challenges. Surely, after 4 years of the conflict in Ukraine, the civilians, especially those living in the contact zones, suffer long-term consequences of the conflict, which are primarily psychological. Many people are very frustrated and they complain that SMM cannot do much for them. So we are often in situation to explain the SMM mandate and what do we do as part of our monitoring job. For example, to be more concrete, although we cannot deliver humanitarian aid to the civilians, we can refer their needs to international organizations and NGOs with a mandate to do so. And this is always well appreciated. By the rule, a monitor always works as part of a team. We patrol with the colleagues and, well, they are from different countries and backgrounds, so we do complement each other a lot. Am I right, Ludovine? Ludovine?
Absolutely, yes, Marinka, I'm here. Thank you for that. I would just simply add that given the nature of our mandate and our mission, monitoring officer will have to multitask in different roles. As Marinka just explained, monitoring officers are usually patrolling and observing and reporting on ceasefire violations, military movements, and accounts made by the civilian population. However, usually depending on your own professional background, a monitoring officer can be acting as political and reporting officer, for example, human dimension officer, gender focal points, operations officer, duty officer, etc. So in that sense, I truly believe that the SMM is a fantastic opportunity to learn new skills and to take up on new roles as well. As an example, I was trained in weapons identification and also to be a peer-to-peer and a post-incident procedure manager. And my background is human rights, so it's a good example of what the SMM can provide to its monitoring officers. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Marinka and Ludovine for providing us your perspective. And the interesting thing is both of you have diverse backgrounds. Nothing to do with policing, nothing to do with security, nothing to do with military, and we're going to be talking more about that, about how individuals with diverse backgrounds may actually serve as monitoring officers to the SMN itself. But before getting there, we just would like Gail to tell us a little more about what skills are needed to become a monitoring officer. Gail, could you enlighten us?
Yeah, I think I would really just add on to what's already been said in terms of the benefits of having a breadth of different backgrounds. So in terms of skills, I really think that the patrols that work well and or really strong analytical work comes from having a team made with a broad variety of experiences from different countries, and also, as we've already said, from different backgrounds. It means that our analytical work in like human rights, security, economic situation, political reporting, it really just gives it breadth and depth. Other skills, I think, linked to that, I think it's a real benefit, and I really enjoy working with people from lots of different areas and countries and backgrounds. And so I think one of the skills that you need is collaboration, to be able to work, and not just with your colleagues, but also during patrols and in our day-to-day work, working with local authorities, civil society representatives, other international organisations, and also just the people that we meet and speak to daily. And then that brings me on to one of the final sort of key skill that I think you really can bring is an ability to be human and listen to people. So people skills that allow you to bridge the gap and also and bring dialogue to situations that can be quite tense. So an ability to communicate and people skills as well, I would say, are all excellent skills to bring.
Very, very good. Thank you very much, Gail, for that. But there's also such a thing as actually meeting minimum criteria to qualify, to apply. And Marta, as a very experienced recruiter at the OSCE, can tell us more about that.
Thank you, Gustavo. So yes, it's true that when we're looking actually at application forms at candidates who are interested in this position, we need to look at the minimum requirements needed for a monitoring officer to become a monitoring officer. And so here are some details about this. So you need to have a first-level university degree. It can be in a range of stuff like political sciences or public or international law or international relations or any other related field. So it's pretty broad in that sense, but it's true that a first-level university degree is requested. And then you can also come from the police or a military academy or a similar additional education in one of these relevant fields. In terms of experience, we're looking for people with minimum 6 years of relevant and diversified experience in an international environment. This is something that we really look for. And it can be in any of the following fields, either political and security issues, or it can be also in dialogue facilitation, human rights, fundamental freedoms, minority issues, or law enforcement. And also coming from, of course, police, military observations, or communication. So, as you can see, is a pretty wide range of experience. And as my colleagues in SMM were saying, yes, we look for people who have excellent communication skills, writing skills, and then obviously working as a member of a team. Ever more important in this very important position as monitoring officer, and to be able to work with people from different cultural and religious backgrounds, with different gender, professional experiences. So you would be really working with people coming from all sorts of places, backgrounds, and countries.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to open this question to anyone who would be willing to tell us a little bit about how do you know if you are a good fit for the job, right? Because there's such a thing as meeting the minimum qualifications, but you need to go beyond meeting the minimum qualifications. Can any of our panelists tell us a little bit about that? Gail, could you tell us a little bit about that? I know I'm putting you on the spot right now, but regarding being a good fit.
Yeah, so to be a good fit, I think it's really, I guess it's linked back to what I said earlier. It's very broad in terms of the different backgrounds and experiences that you can bring. So one thing I would say actually to people is, I know that there is the minimum requirements, but I also think a bit broader beyond that, and you can bring a whole variety of skills and experiences, and really mesh that within a team that you're working with. So also not to be too focused on the minimum requirements. If you can work in a team and work well and listen to people and communicate that, then really I think that puts you in good stead.
Very good. Would anybody else have anything to add?
Well, Gustavo, yes. Can you hear me, Gustavo?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Well, yeah, I concur with Gail what said. You know, it's a monitoring officer position, but what we require also is that it's good, excellent reporting skills. You know, monitoring officers will be involved in political analysis as well, where we produce the weekly reports as well and specific thematic reports. So this is like political reporting skills. Human and minority rights skills, legal international relations skills. Basically, what we need, if we can divide roughly the mandate, is to monitor and report, and then the other basket is dialogue facilitation as well. So what Gail said, soft skills, people skills, communication skills. If our attendees are in good, possess good communication skills, excellent communication skills, can reach out to people and be able to bridge the gaps, that they should definitely consider to apply for monitoring officer position, because it will give them the opportunity not only to apply their skills, but will give them to excel in their skills, because this is the practical work, this is the tangible work in the field, and while they will contribute to the mission, they will also enjoy and continue to learn in their domain.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for that. Now we're going to move on to find out more about the myths about this job. Marinka, could you tell us what are the myths about this job that people typically talk to you about?
Well, Gustavo, the well-spread myth is that this is a job exclusively for male individuals with military or police background. Another myth that we also hear is that women are too weak to wear personal protection equipment and serve in the hostile working environment. In addition, potential female candidates wrongly pursue that with a civilian background focus on law or human rights or diplomacy, they are not suited for a mission like the SMM. However, I really think this is not the case. Right, the opposite, participation of female monitors in patrols and their overall engagement have the positive outcome of our work, and absolutely, diversity contributes to better, more substantial reports that we produce. Currently, there are, if I'm not wrong, around 700 monitoring officers in the mission, and only 100 of them are females. And of course, I'm one of them. I can say that, well, dear female candidates, please do not hesitate to apply for the job. My experience tells you that the SMM is absolutely supportive environment both for men and for women.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marika. I think this is very important information, especially as we try and increase the number of females who may be nominated by participating states to be considered for a position as a monitoring officer at the SMM. And we're going to get into more details about what that means very, very soon with Marta. But before we get to the specifics and logistics about a potential application nomination, we want to find out a little more what's a day like. So Ludovine and Marinka, could you please tell us a little bit more about the day-to-day activities you may engage in?
Yes, absolutely, Gustavo. Well, first I'd like to say there is not such a thing as a typical day in the SMM, but I would say that if I had to describe a typical day, I would say that first of all, it differs greatly depending on your assigned tasks and roles, and also if you're assigned to work mostly in the office or on patrol. A typical day on patrol usually starts with an early morning briefing, including a security briefing for the whole hub, which means for the whole patrols. And then every patrol leader conducts a short briefing for his or her patrol members on the main task of their own patrol for the day, the breaks, and the role of each patrol members. So checking who's in charge of, for example, communication, who's taking notes when we meet civilian population, who's responsible for which equipment, etc. Then the patrol goes out, and usually the patrol would stop at hotspots to record ceasefire violations and interact with civilian population. Patrols can also conduct what we call mirror patrols. This is to ensure repair works are conducted safely on civilian infrastructures. Patrols can also conduct admin runs across the line of contact. Admin runs are those patrols that bring colleagues in and out of non-governmental control area. We can also visit weapon storage sites, for example, or also fly UAVs. UAVs are these unmanned aerial vehicles, what we call drones. Usually, upon return to base, all patrols will draft a patrol report, which will be sent to then the hub reporting unit. And the hub reporting unit will be the structure in charge of drafting a data input from all the patrol reports to send to our head office in Kiev. Yeah, so that's it. Marinka, do you have anything to add from your side?
Ludivine, someone in SMN rightly sounded expect unexpected. I think expect unexpected is really something that well illustrates our work. But my dear gold medalist, I think you covered it all. And I can only add that, well, SMM is really all about the teamwork, and monitoring activities always involve lots of patrolling and communication among the team members. Thank you.
Thank you very much for both of you for giving us this perspective. Another thing to consider as well is we do have all of you coming from different types of backgrounds. Some of you have been in other international organizations, including those in the United Nations system. Some of you have been lawyers. Some of you have worked in nonprofit organizations with human rights. And the question that I have, and I want to direct that to Senator, who's been at the OSCE for a little while. Why should you consider the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe as an employer?
Thanks, Gustavo. Why we should consider the OSCE? I will tell only one thing, is to be able to make a change, a positive change to the situation. I was working in the Secretariat in 2013, 2014, the beginning, and then when the SMM was established, I joined immediately as a first responder, because this was the opportunity for all of us who joined immediately to be able to contribute to the stabilization of the situation. And in the SMM, you really can make a difference by day-to-day patrolling, by reporting, because reporting is the end product. This is what all patrols are going out, all the negotiations that take place at strategic or operational or tactical levels, all that goes to channel through reporting, our reporting the output for the participating states and for the public. Therefore, one really should consider the OSCE as part of their career journey and to make a difference.
Very good. Thank you for that, Senator. And talking about career journey per se, which is a very interesting concept that you see more and more across all industries, the fact that people are no longer staying on the same job for the rest of their lives. Now your career means going through different employers, gaining experience, adding value, learning new skills, and moving on to other areas and other employers as well. And this is part of the rotation policy within the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, in which you do have a maximum limit of employment depending on the type of contract that you have, even location. It could be up to 7 years, or even 10 years, depending on whether or not you change jobs and whether or not you are in the secretariat versus missions and types of contracts. One question that I have for you guys regarding your career path and career journeys is, could some of you tell me a little bit more about how you ended up at the OSCE, and particularly how you ended up being a monitoring officer, so that people who have different backgrounds can feel also inspired by your journey? Ludwig, could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely, Gustavo. So as I mentioned, my background is mainly human rights and protection issues, and also electoral observation missions. So I first started in NGOs in Central America and Southeast Asia. And then I worked as a child protection officer for UNICEF in Ivory Coast, and then also as a human rights officer for UN peacekeeping mission in Haiti, MINUSTA. Then I worked for a few years as an electoral observer, both short-term and long-term. So both with the UN, with OSCE in the US and in Ukraine, and with the Carter Center, for example, which is an American NGO. And then finally, just before joining the SMM, I worked as an electoral observer again for a UN mission in Burundi. And I finally applied for the monitoring officer position, which I joined in December 2015.
Very good. Thank you for that. Can anybody else add something more, something different? How about you, Gail? You who have more of a military type of background, could you tell us more about your experience?
Yes, I guess so. My previous background is in the military. It was quite varied. I did quite a lot of work in engineering, and also a little bit of conflict analysis and human resources. So I guess maybe having a bit of variety in there has helped me, and I've been able to bring those skills into the SMM. I guess one of the things that I would highlight though about working with the SMM, I started off as a monitoring officer on patrol and patrol leader on daily patrols, and then I also worked for a period of time with our sort of technical monitoring, so our unmanned aerial vehicles, so the effectively a camera in the sky which allows us to be able to see things from above and to be able to report more accurately on the situation on the contact line. And then in a short space of time, I did both of those things, and now I've obviously moved on into more of a management role. So one thing I would say in terms of my career path inside the OSCE, there's lots of opportunities, and you can really move across and try something new within the organisation, and gain some new skills while you're here in the SMM. So I think that's a positive thing.
That's very good. Thank you for highlighting that, Gail. Marinka, would you have something to add regarding your experience as a lawyer?
Yeah, sure. Well, my background is maybe similar to Ludwig. Well, as a lawyer, I worked internationally for many years in many different countries. Well, what brought me to SMM? The SMM is OSCE is an organization that is very diverse. I worked in CIS countries before, and my understanding of the region was also something that motivated me to work in this, in Ukraine in particular. But also OSCE is an employer that offers diversity and equal opportunities, and in SMM in particular, the human dimension portfolio can actually give opportunity to many human rights specialists to find their fields. I'm currently working as a gender focal point.
Thank you very much. How about you, Senator? What would you add to the experience? Senator, are you there? Maybe Senator is having some potential issues. We're going to try and speak to Senator very, very soon. So let's move on to the next slide. Another important question is, speaking about the OSCE as an employer, and particularly speaking about monitoring officers as opportunities. So how do we employ people, Marta?
Thank you, Gustavo. Well, the OSCE, we have several contract modalities. We have international and local contracted staff, we have consultants, we have short-term, we have interns as well as entry-level positions and junior professional officers. And then we have seconded staff, and monitoring officers fall under this category. So this staff is firstly nominated by OSCE participating states for specific vacancy notice, and I can explain a little bit more about this. So they're nominated for an assignment in a field operation for a participating state, and therefore the seconding authority reserves the right to exercise own discretion regarding compensation, benefit packages, and so on. So in other words, if you're planning to apply for the monitoring officer position, when you go into the website, you will have to choose your own participating state. You then fill the application form, and once you send and submit it, this will arrive not in our hands, but in the hands of the authorities of your participating state. And they will decide whether they want to nominate you for that position, in which case it will then come to us. So considering all this, when a person is seconded by a participating state, the OSCE does not pay a salary from its own unified budget. This is to the discretion of the participating state, who will then decide whether to pay entitlements from their side. From our side in the OSCE, as a monitoring officer, you have official holidays and leave, you obviously have social security, there's an assignment travel, there's a board and lodging allowance, a daily board and lodging allowance, and there's separation travel. This is a bit broad, so we can go into this a little bit later, or definitely for more information you can visit our website, jobs.osce.org.
Thank you, Marta. And this is specifically to seconded staff. OSCE also has other opportunities for internationally contracted staff, consultants in short-term, interns, and junior professional officers. And if you want to find out more about that, please go to jobs.osce.org. Moving on again with a little more information about seconded staff, just to provide you some of the highlights. So, moving here, highlight number one, seconded positions. Individuals need to be nominated by their participating state, so you do need to check the website and see if you have citizenship of one of our 57 participating states. As mentioned before, we do not accept applications for secondment from individuals who are not a citizen of the participating state, and in the case of the host country of the mission, these citizens of that particular host country do not qualify for the internationally seconded position, but they may qualify for other types of positions, including locally based national officer type of staff, consultants, and other types of contract agreements as well. Just for you to know, about 90% of our international staff in field operations are seconded staff within 12 different fields of expertise, and we do hire at 4 levels of professional competence, from professional to senior professional to manager to senior manager as well. So for more information, just visit jobs.osce.org. Marta, could you tell us briefly about the recruitment process for those types of posts, international seconded posts?
Sure, Gustavo. So basically, we are happy to say that we are very fast compared to other international organizations in terms of recruitment. So there's an average of 130 days from the moment of publishing the vacancy notice to the moment we make an offer, and it's more or less 4.5 months. So that's very good. Usually, when a need is identified, to fill a position. And our vacancies are usually out for 3 to 4 weeks. The monitoring officer position is a bit of an exception because there are many positions to fill. And so this is one of these vacancies that is out for a longer period of time. When we receive application forms, what we do is we produce a long list here in the Secretariat, which we send actually to the mission for further screening. And the mission then will decide who they want to invite then for interview and for a test, for a written test. So who is going to be included in the short list. It could be that between the long list and the short list, the hiring department, the mission decides to go through a mid-step, so to say, through, for example, a pre-written test or an asynchronous interview. That can also be. Our interviews are all competency-based, so you would definitely need to prepare for that. And for that, we have also a lot of information in our website and in YouTube. And if you're invited to one of our interviews, we send you also a lot of information on how to prepare for these.
We're also going to be holding a webinar in the next couple of months about preparing for competency-based interviews at the OSCE, which can be quite useful if you're interested in preparing for interviews for any international organization.
Sure. And then once the decision has been made by the mission on who they would like to have as the next monitoring officers, we receive this information here in the recruitment unit, and we prepare acceptance letters, which we send to your delegation. So basically, since it is a seconded position and participating states are lending us their candidates, if you like, we always communicate through the delegations of the respective participating states here in Vienna.
In other words, the process for monitoring officers in seconded positions, they are facilitated by OSCE, but the decisions are made by the participating states with the agreement of the OSCE, and the funding for these positions also come from these participating states, depending on the different funding modalities that they may have for people that they second. Some individuals may receive the BLA, which is the boarding and lodging allowance. Other participating states may actually pay on top of that, but this is depending on a case-by-case basis, and this needs to be verified by the candidate himself or herself and the participating state nominating authority. And if you have any questions about that, please just go to our official webpage.
Yeah, Gustavo, exactly. That's very important because there are 57 participating states, so 57 ways that are actually understanding the secondment system and the entitlement that each participating state wants to give to their secondees. So when actually checking our website, as I mentioned before, it's important that you look for your own country, and then when you click, then you see the information that is posted there. And we always recommend potential candidates to contact the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. A lot of information about secondment is actually in the website of those of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so you can also check there.
All right, we are getting close to the end of the webinar, and I want to make sure that we have time for questions so that we can leverage our speakers here. So before we move on to questions, I just wanted to know that we do have a great website available called jobs.osce.org, where you can find all this information that we discussed here today. One important thing that you should do is follow us on social media. The OSCE official LinkedIn pages have actually announcements of jobs and announcements of the webinars that we're going to be doing on a monthly basis. If you have not had a video pre-screening interview yet, rest assured that you will face one in the future. And if you want to be prepared for that, you may want to join our webinar next month on preparing for a video pre-screening interview. If you want to find out more about that, you need to follow some of our recruiters online. So you take a look at the names, you just Google OSCE recruitment, OSCE recruiter, and you're going to find our recruiters, add them to your LinkedIn, And you can also join our talent acquisition newsletter, where you're going to receive on a monthly basis information on the webinar, the month announcement, tips for job applications, interviews, and career management from best practices in the private, public, and multilateral sector, a little blurb on OSCE in action, containing a snapshot of OSCE activities across its region via video, photo, podcasts, also the open vacancies and frequently asked questions. So now it's the time that we have for some questions and answers. And please note that we can only cover questions that are as generic in nature as possible, so that most individuals can benefit from this exercise. So right now I'm going to mute myself and look for a few generic questions that we can use to make sure that some of you can get out of here with more answers than questions. Okay, so give us a couple of seconds for us to find the questions. All right, one of the questions that we have, and maybe we can have Marinka answer, is where do the monitoring officers live? Marinka, are you there?
Yes, I can hear you. Well, depends in different cities, in different premises. In Donetsk, we all had a common accommodation. We were accommodated, all monitors were accommodated in a hotel. However, in some other cities, the monitors live in private premises.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's take a look here. Let's find another question. Are all monitoring officer positions seconded positions?
Positive, all monitoring officer positions are seconded, yes.
Okay, let's find another. What does the pre-deployment training and assessment consist of? You can find more information about that online. You can find, just go to YouTube and do training OSCE SMM. But we can have Gail, if she's still on, tell us a little bit about the pre-deployment training.
Yes. I guess maybe specific to my country, so I don't know about others, but we did some HEAT, so hostile environment awareness training, before I deployed, and I did that in the UK. And then when I joined the SMM, we also did some more of that training in Austria, and I know other people have also gone through that training in Kiev. But it's a very good opportunity to meet some of the colleagues that you'll work and deploy with, and you go through it for a couple of weeks together, and you go through a whole load of scenarios and medical and all sorts of training to prepare you for when you go deploy forward. So yeah, so that's the pre-deployment training that I did.
Thank you. Another question that I have here is, do monitors work 7 days a week? Marinka, could you answer that for us?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes we do work. I mean, we, especially in the East, we have it's the missions working time. We don't, we were available basically 24/7. Yes. I mean, there are, in Ukraine, the monitors work in different cities, and of course, we all adjust to the concrete mission needs. And, well, that's my answer, yes. But, it might sometimes be as long as 7 days with no day off, yes.
But if I may add from my side, I would say that normally we work 5 days on, 2 days off. So normally we tend to respect that, because otherwise most of it will go quickly on burnout. So we try to have 2 days off. It's not necessarily weekends, but then we usually have 2 days off a week. Yep.
Another question that's very interesting here is there an age limit?
So for seconded positions, In the OSCE, there is no age limit for seconded positions. There was a question here, somebody actually asking, am I too old? So I don't know exactly what age you have, sir, or madam, but there's no age limit. However, of course, we ask definitely whether, you know, there is any health issues or any health matters that we need to consider before a final decision is taken, and this can be age-related or not, of course. But in principle, no, there's no age limit for this. I have other questions here regarding whether it is a non-family duty station. Yes, positive. This is a non-family duty station. And then there's many questions about languages. We do require English professional fluency, and then of course, if Russian and or Ukrainian are spoken, definitely this is a big help. I'm sure my colleagues in SMM can talk more about that. But basically, those are our requirements. Where do interviews take place? For seconded positions, we actually do interviews via WebEx. So we do not invite candidates to come to Ukraine or to Vienna to do interviews. This is done via WebEx. There was also a question about not having been successful in 2013 for whatever reason. So yes, definitely a renomination can be considered. So for the person who actually asked that question, do contact again your authorities if you wish so, and explore the possibilities of being renominated. And then, and I'm sure my colleagues can talk a little bit more about rotation. So when you're hired as a monitoring officer, you do not stay in the same location for the whole period. Maybe you guys want to talk a little bit more about that, Marinka and company.
Well, there is actually no rotation as such. I mean, majority of the work takes place on the east. Well, however, the mission has offices in other cities as well. So the offices in the western part of the countries have much less of the monitors. So I mean, I don't really think that we can talk of rotation as such in the SMM. It's really all very much, you know, our work should first of all meet the mission needs on the ground.
Okay, so we actually need to have one last question before moving on, okay? Can you please tell whether there are entry-level opportunities or internships at the SMM where you do have to apply via the appropriate channels? That could be different kinds of opportunities that are not related to monitoring officer per se, okay? We are reaching the end of our presentation today. I want to thank all of you, all of the individuals who signed up. We had close to 300 people actually participate today in 600 registrations. Everyone will receive the link for a recording of this presentation, so you can check it back in the future. And we plan on making this available on our website in the very near future as well. I also would like to thank our speakers, Marinka, Saner, Gail, Ludovine, and Marta for participating in our first webinar. I highly recommend that you, all of you, subscribe to our talent acquisition newsletter. What you have to do is just go Google OSCE and talent acquisition newsletter so that you can put your email and receive those updates, including tips for applications, tips for interviews related not only to the OSCE context, but also to the context of international organizations as well, based on best practices from what's coming from the private sector, public sector, and multilateral sector too. Again, it's 15 after the hour, so we very much appreciate your patience with our technical issues in the beginning, and we are looking forward to seeing some of you in the future participating in those webinars as well. Again, this is Marta and Gustavo disconnecting from Vienna, and thanks again to our monitoring officers who participated directly from Ukraine. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Have a good
bye.
day.
Whew.